I guess on my hair, she look alright. And with that actually sitting there like this creams, and I had to have them, sis. All 5 of them. Here, I just had, we're gonna discontinue it, but I had to pick up their book of shadows, honey. Color grade makes cheap fan, expensive breeze, good times. Wow, so serious. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's Torrence here, and in today's video, I am playing with my favorite eyeshadow color, green. As you all can see, she is over the top, honey. I am feeling like the Incredible Hulk. Nothing can stop me today because I am playing with the Culture Palette by juviasplace. I bought this big beautiful thing the day it launched, got it straight from the juviasplace website, and never used it. Went to Ulta, even got one of the liquid shadows from there, thinking that's gonna push me to get to it, and I never quite did so. And it's like, Torrence, 30 beautiful colors like this and you've never got into it? You're somebody who loves colorful shadows. You're someone who loves textures. We got matte, we got shimmer, we got dual chrome, we got glitter. So today I told myself, instead of dodging greens like you usually do because they're your favorites and you want to give people variety, they're gonna have to say, you know what, we ain't getting no variety today. We're gonna have to settle with these greens. And I am so happy I did because this look came out fabulous. But with all palettes, nothing is perfect. Everything does has its pros and cons. And I'm gonna let you know the real tea about this palette, because although I like her, she is not for everyone. So if you would like to know how to achieve this look, you gotta make sure you continue to watch. But before we get into it, you know I have to bring you swatches. But first, I ask if you please hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Make sure you also give this video a thumbs up if you want to see more tutorials by juviasplace. But before we jump into this tutorial and I show you how to achieve this look, I gotta bring you those swatches. Child, let me tell you, with this new angle, it is harder to get these palettes in view, especially when you have a large, beautiful palette like this. I'm trying to get a view of it without the glare from the ring light, but it doesn't look like that's going to be possible today. Inside, the colors are going to be beautiful, and the outside packaging gives you an indication of what colors to expect on the inside. So with no further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Once inside this palette, you see we have 30 beautiful shades. There is no mirror, but that doesn't bother me because I don't use mirrors in the palettes, but just in case you do, that's something you may want to know. There's also a variety of finishes. I am seeing mattes, metallics, dual chromes, and glitters. And it also appears that we have 6 different color stories, so you can follow just each column to get a desired look, or you can mix and match to come up with your own new creative looks. You all already know which column is catching my eye. Greens are my absolute favorite eyeshadow color, so more than likely that's going to be the column we're going to jump into first. But before we jump into the tutorial, you know I got to get you some swatches. Can we please get into how beautiful these swatches are? This is just the first 2 columns, which have an orange and green tone to them. For finishes, we have mattes, metallics, and dual chromes. There don't appear to be any glitters in these, but they are absolutely beautiful. As with all swatches, everything was done one time over no primer, just on bare skin, and it has me truly excited to see what these next 2 columns will look like. And now we have swatches of columns 3 and 4. Column 3 has a very pink undertone. Column 4 is much more neutral with a slightly coral undertone, but they are both extremely beautiful. The only difference I've noticed so far is that column 3 with the pinks has a glitter shade, which is that 4th shade there, but she's completely smooth. When I tell you, no primer underneath it, still adheres to the skin extremely well, no patchiness, and you can see the way it shimmers in the light. So I am excited to see what that's going to look like on the eyes. But we can't go any further until I bring you swatches of columns 5 and 6, so let's go ahead and get into those. Now hold up, wait a minute here. I am not the biggest fan of blues, but I give credit where it's due, and these are beautiful. Column 5 with these blues have 3 mattes, 1 metallic, and 1 dual chrome, and I'm sitting back like, ooh, we might have to come back and get to those. But before we get to those, I see me going over to them purples. Once again, your mattes, your metallics, your duochromes, and they are gorgeous. Column 5 is your blues, column 6 is your purples, and although greens are my favorites, I'm not gonna lie. These two rows just swatch alone look the most beautiful. So I am tired of waiting. I have to hurry up and get into some of these shadows. So I'm about to prep my lids and we can get started when we come back. Baby, I am looking at my skin and like, honey, this is 4th of July weekend. I went to an outdoor party yesterday. Today technically is the 4th of July, so I wanted to make sure I did my makeup before I stepped out today. But even with sunscreen, as you all can see, the tan is real, honey. So, ooh-wee, I might have to stay inside even though I'm going to a party today because I can't afford to keep getting darker and darker and darker unless I'm going to have to go out and buy some more foundations, which we don't have the funds for right now. But enough talking about that. As with all tutorials, all tools and product used will be in the description bar below. Already got my eye base going, and today we are playing with the Culture palette by juviasplace. Let me slide over and get her into angle, honey. Look at her. She is beautiful. I have never used this palette, so today is a first impressions. And just because I'm wearing a green shirt, I haven't had makeup on in quite a while. Yeah, this whole row of greens here, you might as well get ready for it because that's what I'm jumping into. And let me see, just because I like to start things off lightest to darkest with my matte shades, we're going to start off with this light green here. It looks like it's called Terrible. My mama's name is Tara, so I'm going to call it Terrible. But we're going to take this shade here, our largest, fluffiest blending brush, and we're going to diffuse that throughout our entire crease as a transition shade. And before we get started, the one thing I must let you know is these mattes are powdery, honey. They have plenty of kick up, whether you're swatching them or dipping your brush into it. So you may want to be careful, and just to make sure we don't do too much, we're going to tap that excess off because we can come back and add more. But we're just going to start this off right here and see where she takes us. And baby, I'm already in love. Just seeing that slight little bit of green come through already has me excited. And usually with powdery shadows, they are either extremely pigmented or don't have much pigment at all. And I am already loving what we got on this first blend. More than likely, I'm gonna go in with one more just to see how pigmented she is. But for me, seeing this transition shade already has me like ready to just keep going, honey. She is blending, but I honestly wish she would diffuse just the tiniest bit more. We're gonna go in with one more layer and see if that gives us what we want. But look at her, nice and pretty. Let's try to see if we can pick up the kick up from our pan and not knock up any more product. And it looks like you can do that. If you sweep your brush across, you can pick up the remaining product instead of dipping back in and creating more kick up. So that's a beautiful thing. And let's see how the second layer goes. Okay, okay. And I feel as if I'm getting a little more pigmentation. I want to make sure I just diffuse these edges as best as I can, because with all greens, honey, I want them to stand out, even though this color naturally will. Soft blended edges, yes ma'am. And as far as I'm concerned, things are going great, so I'll be right back after I do this on the other side. Now that we have our transition shade on, it's time to go in and deepen up our crease. This shade here in Beverly is the darkest green matte in the palette, and we're going to use this with a slightly smaller blending brush and take this throughout our entire crease to give us more depth and dimension. And this shade, just like Terrible, has some kick up, but not quite as much. But because it's darker, I always want to tap off my extra. We're going to start on the outer end as low as possible and buff this into our crease. And I'm telling you, we want to see how much pigmentation we can get, but I can already see with this one layer, honey, we ain't even buffed it out, but you know I love me a dark green, honey. I'm not even sure if we're going to need to blend this out. Well, no, I know we need to blend it out. I mean, I'm not sure if we're going to need to put on a second layer. So what I want to do is be very careful, buff out this first layer, Keep your brush down as low into the crease as you can. And where you're confident that there isn't any more product to be blended out, then you can slightly raise your brush up into the crease and diffuse those edges. The color on this is so beautiful, honey. It got me questioning whether I want to go in and do another layer. This is deep and dark, honey. I am loving it. Like, y'all see that? I really want, you know what, we're going to be very, very careful because I am nervous with this one. This is pigmented, honey. Tap it real, real hard just to see if she builds up. We're going to go in one more time. Yes, ma'am, honey. This shade here is beautiful. I love me a deep dark green, and honey, she did not come to play with the girls. And just because we're here, and I want to see if I can pick up some of this kick up, we're going to place this on the outer V, and we're just going to pack it on just to see how deep and dark that color comes out. And you all can already see I didn't have to go back in and dip in again, just pressing that just like that. Super dark, super pigmented. Let's go ahead and just use this brush to diffuse those edges. We can always bring the color over further than that, but I just want a soft, beautiful blended edge. And look at her, honey. The depth and dimension from adding one extra color compared to this, you all can already see the difference. So I'll be right back after I do this on the other side. Now I want to go in and cut my crease. You know I love my NYX glitter primer. So we're just going to take some of this, put it on the back of our hand. And this tube is getting rather empty, honey. I might have to go ahead and get me a new one in a few weeks. Yeah, she less than half, honey. I love this product. But at the affordable price, you can't beat it. We're going to just take some of this. I grabbed a little too much. And I'm going to try to focus most of this on the front half. I don't want to take this all the way out and cover up my outer V work. So I'm just going to first just do a small cut crease and then try to work my way up higher into the crease. About like that. And I want to make sure close to the lash line is completely covered. And once I see that I'm about halfway, I want to take and start diffusing those edges out just slightly. But I do want to come out into that outer V area, just the tiniest bit. All right, we're going to do this on the other side. This palette has 3 greens here. And I'm sitting back looking like, okay, we can only use 2 of them on the lids if we want to use one as an inner eye corner highlight. And I'm not sure how we're going to do this. So what I think, just because one shade is darker than the other, I'm going to take this shade here, Biafra, and I'm going to use this as the inner half for our lid. And for the outer half on the lid, I'm going to go into this shade here, Tiff. We're going to try them both with a natural hair brush first. If I don't like the application with that, we'll switch over to the silicone applicator. And see, honey, I'm no psychic or anything like that, but something told me this shade Biafra just may not pick up the way I want with a natural hair brush. I'm gonna apply it just to see how pretty she is, but I truly believe this is only gonna give us a sheer amount of coverage, and with the silicone applicator, it's gonna be like over the top pigment. So let me go in and see what this looks like first. I'm gonna try to keep that one brush width out. Yeah. No, ma'am. She's cute, but on camera you barely see that color there. Oh no, yeah. The fact that I done went in with a second layer and still don't get it the way I was hoping for. She cute, but something telling me a silicone applicator is gonna be even better. So let me grab one and let's see what this looks like on this side. Okay. Well, that was shocking. Well, let me tell you what I've noticed. Although, yes, there was a little more pigmentation and it was definitely more smooth, or much more smooth with the silicone applicator, it's not like the silicone applicator is giving us over the top shine or anything. So more than likely, this wasn't a full metallic. This is probably just like a shimmer shade, maybe even a dual chrome, but it seems like you can either do one layer with the silicone applicator or two with the brush, but it don't seem like one is better than the other for sure to me. And normally the silicone applicator or your finger gives you much more dramatic, you know, looks. Gonna go to the next shade, that's all I can say. Okay, this shade here, Tiff, picked up a lot easier, and we're gonna use this to take at least all the way out to the outer V. I'm gonna press this down. Yeah, this is applying easier. It picked up easier. And I'm just gonna buff this into that first shade in the front, as well as into the matte shade in the outer V, because we do not want a harsh line. And that went on very easily. I personally, just because greens are my favorites, I personally would have preferred a much more high shine. But when you give me pigmentation, ease of use, we're not gonna be mad at it. But you can see how fast and easily that went on, how smooth it looks on camera. So I gotta go ahead and do this on the other side. And I was gonna try it with the silicone applicator on the other side, but you know what? Because it's going on so easily with the natural hair brush, we're just gonna go ahead and keep it with this, and I'll be right back after I do it on the other side. All right, you guys, so far I am loving the look. As you can see, the top of our lids are done. What I'm gonna do is cut away, finish off the face, and when I come back, I'm gonna show you how we're gonna finish off the lower lash line. Yes, honey, look at this beat. When I tell you, I don't wear makeup as often as I used to, but when I get into it, I am feeling myself. This look, although it may be new to y'all, honey, a lot of these, I think almost everything that I'm wearing today is older products besides the eyeshadow palette. I don't know why, but lately, yes I do. I'm on a no-buy, so I'm like, honey, I have to play with my collection. But something told me today, Torrence, go back, like use some of your old school favorites, because recently you all know I've been trying to use up this NARS foundation. This is the NARS Soft Matte Complete Foundation. But something told me like, Torrence, try to pull out another old NARS foundation you have. All Day Luminous Weightless Foundation. I believe this was the very first foundation I ever got from NARS, and I'm not 100% sure, but there has been whispers around that NARS is going to discontinue one of their foundations, and this is one of the foundations that is extremely hard to find in store now. I believe this one, as well as the Natural Radiant Longwear Foundation, is also hard to find. And if you like me and many other people, those are both like cult classics, but I would rather keep this than that Natural Longwear Foundation. But I think more people like that other one, so I'm like, while you still got a bottle, go ahead, use her up, see how she is. And she's still just as fabulous as she used to be. She's an extremely thin formula, but she's full coverage. She blends, she builds, but you do want to go in with less than half of the product you think you need, because once again, extremely thin, extremely full coverage, but look at her. Beautiful, honey. And I'm like, Torrence, while you still enjoying NARS, go ahead and pull out your old favorite concealer. My favorite concealer of all time is the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer. I'm using the shade Medium to Ginger. Absolutely love her. No matter what concealer I'm using, have on stock, I don't think there's ever been a time in my life where I did not have this since the day I've tried it. I always keep multiple shades, usually my skin tone shade plus a highlighting shade, because as you can see, I like a bright under eye, honey. And sometimes I've even been known to go even lighter than this, but I'm like, Torrence, it's gonna be holidays. Y'all might have pictures. You don't wanna risk doing too much. So we have this one on here too. I was trying to finish up my Too Faced Born This Way concealer, but we put that to the side today. What else do we have going on? Oh, blush. My all-time favorite blush. happens to be from Juvia's Place. If you all remember watching me when I first started, you all will know it's the Seraphina Blush single. I believe Juvia's Place has only put out 2 individual blushes, Seraphina and Bella. They've done several palettes and duos and things like that. But this here is my favorite. NARS Orgasm never did it for me. It was just a little too light for me. This is my version of a beautiful peachy pink blush. You can see she's there and she gives just enough pink where she can come off. And you see that highlighter beaming too, because baby, had to pull out an old school favorite highlighter. You all remember, I used to go through and buy a brand new one every year, even though I never finished it. And last year, I grinded this up, if not last year, earlier this year, MAC Oh Darling. I used to collect the Extra Dimension Skin Finish formula, and as you can see with this one, I had never completely used her up, but I did take a spoolie, grind her down into a fine powder, mixed her with other colors and things that I like to create my own custom shadows, as well as some custom highlighters. I think I may do a video showing you off some of those, but I remembered not to buy another one, Torrence, because you still have this partial, and I promise you, I can use this amount every single day for a year and still not run through that. So I'm trying to remind myself, Torrence, just because she's not pretty in the pan does not mean anything, because on the face, you see that nose highlighter is going through, that cheek highlighter, she is cute, she is shiny, she is beaming, honey. So there's no need to buy another one. What else do we have from MAC going on? Lips. Decided to pull out an old school favorite. At first, my old school original favorite lip liner was the Cork liner from MAC. The thing is, I'm wearing an extremely light nude for my complexion. My favorite YouTuber put me up on game. So when I put it on, I'm like, wait, Torrence, Cork goes with a normal liner. A normal lipstick. For something that's extremely light, you need a liner that's extremely dark. So I pulled out my chestnut. This is usually about as dark brown as I can go and still feel comfortable with blending it out. But to top it all off, I went in with one of my favorite amplified lipsticks in Blankety. She is beautiful. Normally, I'm not for the pinky neutrally, colored lipsticks. I'm someone who generally prefers cool tone eyes, warm lips, but she is beautiful to me. Once again, this color is Blankety, and I got this on the recommendation of Kelsey Brianna J. Y'all know that's my favorite beauty influencer. So I only have this here. She also recommended a lip gloss, but I didn't want to put that on because I know I'm going to go eat after this and there's no point in making a mess. But normally I would top off the Blankety lipstick with this here, see-through. The lips gloss, this is spelled C-THRU. As you can see, she's even lighter. That's why I would need this darker lip liner. But I'm like, you know what, Torrence? We can hold this off because I'm not gonna lie, just this nude lipstick moment is giving me life. So I'm like, okay, we'll leave that there. Did I do anything else? I'm trying to look around, double check. Lower lash line, I am wearing the 24/7 Glide On Eye Pencil. Y'all know this is my favorite formula. I have so many colors, it's ridiculous. But the number one that I've worn, Demolition, they're dark brown. Normally with green eyeshadow, I would go in with a green liner, but I'm like, yo, last green look, you did that. And greens and blacks are my favorites. But I'm like, Torrence, a black liner is gonna take over and be really dramatic with this dramatic green look. Let the greens do their things by themselves. So I put out my Demolition liner and I think she is fabulous. And I'm sitting back looking like, Torrence, truth be told, you can head out the door right now. This eye look looks fabulous. There's nothing else left to do if you didn't want to. It's the holiday though, and I'm being dramatic. So I want to take my same matte shades that we did on the top, buff that out on the lower lash line so we can get a little more drama. And I have not highlighted my inner corner of my brows, so let's get into it. Alrighty, back into the palette here, honey. All we want to do is take 2 pencil brushes. First, a larger pencil brush with this shade here, Terrible, and we're gonna buff this out just to give us a little color as a transition, but to give us more depth and dimension and to smoke out that lower lash line, we're gonna go back into this shade here in the Bella, and we're gonna use this with a smaller brush, and we're gonna get that as close to the lashes as we can. And with greens and purples, you always wanna be careful underneath the eye because it can look like a bruise or look like you haven't gotten enough sleep. So we're gonna take our time, blend things out slowly, and make sure we get things beautifully. And we're going to start things off on the outer end. I want to make sure I connect this to the color on the top. And we're going to work our way to the front. Do not feel bad if you have to dip more than once. It is better to take your time, work slowly, and get your way up, than to rush and make a mistake. And when I dip back in, I only want to get the very tip of the brush to make sure I'm getting the most pigment exactly where I need it. And I want to make sure I connect that to the outer end. And just because we know, just like with the top, we needed to build things up, I'm going to build things up on the lower lash line as well. And because I'm comfortable on the second layer, I will start from the center on the way out. If you are afraid of messing up, I would recommend always starting as far out as you can and working your way to the center, because things tend to be a little lighter in the inner corner and a little darker near the outer V. But I'm going to go very slow and just do continuous swipes. And now you can really see on that second layer, that green really built up, baby. This light shade Terrible is very buildable. And I'm not sure, I believe it is showing up on camera. You can see where this has just the slightest green hue peeking through. But because I want more depth and dimension, we're going to do this on the other side, and I'll be back to show you how we're going to deepen things up. Now it's time to deepen things up, and even though this brush is much smaller than the first one, the color we are using is much darker. So I'm going to tap off that excess, because we can always go back in. And once again, we're going to start on the outer end, and I want to get as close to the lashes as I possibly can and move extremely slow and just buff my way up. And when I tell you, the amount of pigment and color you are getting on this second shade here, it's ridiculous. The only reason I have to dip twice with this brush is because he's so tiny he can't cover my entire eye. But if this was a larger brush, ain't no way I would need a second layer of this. And I gotta take my time, buff her out, because now that I got this second dip on here, honey, it's enough color to make sure everything is covered. Ooh-wee. Make sure we connected on the outer V. When I first started in makeup, I used to miss this one spot right here. You can see my skin always peeking through. Oh yeah. Now you can all truly see. Look how structured my under eye is. It looks like I did a cut crease right here. On this side, she's soft, she blended, but she ain't got the definition and the strong, sharp end that this one has here. Y'all see why I love green so much. I'll be right back after I do this on the other side. And honey, I am just looking at this look like, oh my goodness. I love green, so more than likely it's hard to tell me, you know, that's gonna be an ugly green eyeshadow look, but she's showing out. We ain't through yet. We still got a little bit more. And this shade here, Iffy, the lightest shimmery green we got, gotta use her for an inner corner highlight and brow bone highlight. Depending on how light she is, I shouldn't have to double up on the inner corner, but if she doesn't come off as bright as I want to, I'll probably mix in my face highlighter with it. But let's go ahead and see what she's working with. And see if that's what I'm talking about. Picked up on the brush beautifully, first swipe, no issues. Considering how much product we got right there, honey, this should be able to cover both eyes. But knowing I like to go over the top, it just might not. So we're gonna go ahead, turn our eyes, see if we can get y'all a good view. And we're gonna press this down and see what we get. Ooh. Ooh. Honey, I knew what I saw in this little bitty mirror right here, because I'm holding my Jessica Rabbit mirror from Ciate. I had no clue. I had no clue that my eye was jumping and popping like that. Oh yeah, let me get one more dip for this other side, because honey, I want that to be just as loud, just as dramatic. Give me a little more, just a little more to drag it up. Yes, ma'am. And just because I'm afraid of how green this is, I'm gonna flip my brush over. There's still a little product on this side, but it'll give me a chance to build up. We're gonna go to the arch of our brow. Ooh, baby. I flipped to the other side and still got a ton of product. So what we're gonna do is put that down first, and then we're gonna buff her out with it. I was gonna grab another brush, but you know what? Why mess up another brush? Just wipe this off on the back of my hand, and then we're gonna go in and try to diffuse that color, because that is a strong green right there, sis. Like strong green. We're gonna buff this all the way out to the front, all the way down to the back. But we want that point right there at the arch to be the strongest. So that way, you see it's green there, but as I shift, the color comes through a little more, babe. Let me go ahead and do this on the other side, sis. Let me do this on the other side. With no way to hide my excitement, it's time to set everything. So make sure you grab your sprays, because you know I'm about to grab mine. Fix Plus to give us a glowy do. All nighter, so things will last all day. Cheap fan, expensive breeze, good times. I'm going to give this a few more moments to dry, and I'll be back to show you all the final look. And this is the final look. I want to go ahead, give you all a full face view of things before I give you all my final thoughts. And I'm here to tell you all, honey, I'm loving her. She is beautiful. When it comes to greens, it is really, really hard for me to go ahead and be like, oh no, that's trash, you don't need that, don't get that. But you all know, no matter how much I love a color story, no matter how much I love a brand, I'm gonna keep it 100% honest with you all. So, do I like this palette? Yes. Am I happy I have her? Absolutely. Is this a palette you need to go out and get? That's where things come in and get tricky. Now, first off, this is a first impression, so the only thing I can speak on is the color story and the formula of this row here, because I have not used the other shades on the eye. I can't tell you how they perform just yet. But what I can tell you is, one, these shades do have some kick up. So if you're the type of person who does not enjoy kick up, or you find it difficult to work with shadows that have that, you may not want to go ahead and get this. And I don't think it's showing you in person, but like on the actual palette itself, I am going to have to wipe this off and clean it because there was some kick up, but that did not matter to me because the mattes build and blend like a dream. Absolutely beautiful, and especially the darker shades, it seems like the darker the color is, the less kick up you have and the more pigmentation you get. Where I think things are going to get tricky for me or for the public is with the shimmers. I am someone who does not like using my fingers to apply my shimmers, which is why I grabbed, where is she? My silicone applicator. Where did you disappear off to, honey? I know she was just in here. Oh, there she is. Right here. My favorite one is from Makeup Forever. I also have one from NYX that I love, but the NYX one is a dual-ended brushes, and because I store my dirty brushes in this cup right here, I just prefer brushes that have one side on them. And so, for me, if you go in with the natural hair brushes, it seems like it goes back and forth. This lighter shade here picked up easily with the brush, no problem. Y'all saw how I applied that to the inner corner. This shade here, Tiv, it was 50-50. To me, it seemed like it was just as good with the silicone applicator as it was with the brush. But then you get down here to a shade like Biafra, and you realize this is a shade I would much rather only prefer with the silicone applicator, because with a brush, it was rather sheer and I had to really build it up. And nothing about the brush really, you know, gave me that shock factor, that, oh my God, look at that pigment, look at that shine. And so I say, how can I put this? If you're a juviasplace collector like me, you're gonna love her. If you're a colorful lover, you're gonna love her. But if you are just someone who's truly out looking for your new holy grail, you know, colorful eyeshadow palette, I don't see this being it. And plus, she's also limited edition, so more than likely when it sells out, it'll probably be just that. But I'm someone who looks at this and when I go, okay, Torrence, today you did just this row here and you got this beautiful eye look. What's wrong with it? Absolutely nothing. I think she's stunning, and she sort of reminds me of, what was that? The Army Greens palette. I'll leave that linked right here above. I did another green look by Juvia's and actually if I can slide over a little bit, I'll make sure I leave the picture of it right here. And you can look at that look from the Army Greens palette by Juvia's compared to this one. And when you think about it, it's like that quad, I believe, is usually on sale for about $8. This one here, I can't remember the price, but because she's much larger, it's gonna cost you a lot more. So if you have just a very specific row that you want to go for, I would check to see if Juvia's has a smaller palette that you can get that color story from. With me knowing I wanted to go in with these greens, I could use my Army Greens to create this look, but I probably wouldn't have had this nice light yellow. So I look at it as complementary to other palettes that I have. But just being straight up honest, if let's say my little sister called me and was like, oh, I'm gonna go buy me a palette, I want this to be my very first Juvia's palette, I wouldn't say this should be your first Juvia's palette because they have other ones that I would recommend more, but I don't see her being disappointing or anybody's holy grail. She's just a good palette, a good color story, a good formula, a good price. And as you see, I got a good look from it. Nothing bad, nothing absolutely exceptional except the pigmentation. Other than that, I'm happy with her. I wish I could, go in and just tell you all, oh, she was trash, she didn't build it. No, it was nothing really bad about her, but I have other Juvia's palettes such as that Army and that Tribe where I just feel as if the shimmers have much more shine to them. And so I'm gonna just play with this a little bit more to see, what kind of other color stories I can come up with. No point of lying to you all, because oranges isn't my favorite. This first row here, let me pull, baby, trying to get everything in camera now that I have a smaller view. This one here, I really don't care for this color story just because I love yellows but not oranges. Really not the biggest fan of pink, so I really wouldn't care for that or this curl. But this blue and this purple row, I see me coming back real soon, especially this purple row. I love purples, and this one here are calling my name, but ain't no point in lying. That blue is beautiful, and one of the most beautiful blue looks I've ever done was also from Juvia's Which palette was that? I think it was the Wahala 1 palette. I'll make sure I leave that linked above here so you can check that video out. If you want to see the picture of what she looks like for that blue look, make sure I leave that right here so you can see what she comes off as for that Wahala palette. But it's the 4th of July, honey, and I'm sitting back looking like, when I show up and everybody, oh my goodness, honey, your makeup looking fabulous. I'm like, this old stuff here, girl, I done had this stuff for years, honey. This ain't nothing new to me. This is new to you. They gonna be. Torrence is here, y'all. Torrence is here. We here to show out. So I hope you all really did enjoy this video. If you did, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Make sure you also leave me a comment down below letting me know if one, you have this palette here. Once again, this is the Culture palette by Juvia's If you don't have this one, let me know what is your favorite palette from Juvia's because I've been noticing you all really love when I do Juvia's tutorials, and I would like to make sure that I get a tutorial up for all of my palettes, even though that would probably take a while because I have every palette they've ever released. But just in case you all have a favorite palette, I want to make sure I have some inspiration out there for you all, whether that be a new look that you haven't tried or me just retrying some looks that you all have done with them. But it feels like I'm just rambling because I don't have much to say. It's just, do I like her because I have her? Yes. Do I recommend her? As long as you like the color story, but I would not make this your first Juvia's palette. And with that being said, I need to go ahead, clean up all this stuff here because I'm going to have to come home and wash these brushes, and I'm already thinking about it like, Torrence, is you going to have the energy to do this? Because it's going to be barbecue, it's going to be fireworks. So I think about it, I might want to go ahead and clean up before I leave out and see the family. So, been talking long enough, about to cut this off right here. Torrence, don't say nothing else. With all that being said and done, I hope you all remember to practice, continue to stay blessed, and until next time, goodbye YouTube.